Wow.
Can't believe you couldn't figure that out for yourself.
I didn't know that was there. Why would it be? Whatever.
Okay, folks, so we've been analyzing Briahna Joy Grey for the past half hour.
Yeah.
But we were muted the whole time.
The whole time, though.
So that's some fucking shit.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, at least YouTube didn't hear you say the N-word.
Yeah.
Perk.
Perk. So much.
The thing that I find to be simultaneously the legacy American, which is this term they've come up with so that he doesn't have to talk in explicitly racial terms. It means the Americans who have been here for a long time, which I'm almost every white person here.
Definitely longer than Tucker Carlson.
Definitely longer than Tucker Carlson.
Okay, so my issue with this first opening statement is I have to go over the whole...
We lost so much epic tier content.
I know.
It's not even funny. But we will definitely hit all the points that we hit in that time frame again.
Eventually. I'm not going to force it.
Nope.
Documented, often
everything we said, we recorded.
Persecution by the state.
It's not lost forever.
And he's able to occupy that role without succumbing to the in the same way they did with Donald Trump. So, for example, he says, look, this isn't racism. This is just the facts of the matter. Here's a report that says for every immigrant that comes to the southern border, there's 8 pounds of trash that get left in what he says. That liberals who critique him as being racist, the critique doesn't land. And in fact, Tucker Carlson then weaponizes that and says they want to shut us up by calling us racist. And I see that pattern working out. And in my personal life,
then I think for us,
what do you make of that, Trevor?
A big problem I think I have with the whole thing is it's kind of baked in, I think, for us to lose. Because I think one problem that ends up happening is, even though people kind of debate on this, I think for the most part, I don't think media is mostly left-wing, but I do think it is mostly at least center-left, or like, you know, DNC is that hard for, I think, one voice among liberals or...
Ridiculous.
There's a large percentage, at least a very significant percentage of very successful black people who would definitely fall in that category.
Very substantial black upper and middle class.
Yes. Who are both left and right.
But, you know, the richer they are, the more conservative they are.
Exactly. So, those people would definitely be way more... You really don't think Tucker Carlson considered...
They don't count as black people, but you'd have to ask Briahna.
Yeah, I'd have to ask Briahna. I'm asking Briahna, you see.
Oh, well. Hey, Briahna. Ignorant Oracle at Ignorant Oracle _, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Guess I gotta start putting that shit in my bio or something.
Or you can just shout yourself out when it's appropriate, like right now. But yeah, you should put that shit in your bio and shit. We gotta know all the ways.
Being praised by white nationalist groups for doing so. But even in this context, I'm like, oh, I don't want to use that word because I know people who might listen to some other things I have to say.
You know, white guys who are white supremacists don't want you to use a different word, trust me.
Yeah. Yeah. They want to be called what they are. So, yeah.
Just like white guys who aren't white supremacists, guess what? They don't want to be called white supremacists.
If you meet a white supremacist who doesn't want to be called a white supremacist, he's probably not a white supremacist. I'm just saying.
And it's rude to assume otherwise.
Yeah.
And it's very credibility destroying on your part.
Using the term white supremacist is not wrong. Calling someone who's not a white supremacist is wrong. That is what
Dear
you
Lord.
get.
I wouldn't call someone a black nationalist if I didn't know they were.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. I barely feel comfortable calling someone like Malcolm X a black nationalist, because that's
a cheaty black nationalist.
Yeah.
And not even his whole life.
No.
Not even at the end.
Not even, no, he didn't die believing that.
Uh-huh.
So, holy crap, he's won a much bigger war. That camp has won a much bigger war than I've realized. If I am self-policing using a word like white supremacy, which I think is rightly used in many contexts, including with someone like Tucker Carlson, who is very openly using white nationalist lingo and being praised by white nationalist groups for doing so. But even in this context, I'm like, oh, I don't want to use that word because I know people who might credibility just like whoosh down the drain if you use a word like white supremacist. And then I think to myself, holy crap, he's won a much bigger war. That camp has won a much bigger war than I've realized. If I am self-policing using a word like white supremacy, which I think is rightly used in many contexts, including with someone like Tucker Carlson, who's very openly using white nationalist lingo and being praised by white nationalist groups for doing so. But even in this context, I'm like, oh, I don't want to use that word because I know people who might listen to some other things I have to say are going to think I'm not credible anymore because they think that's a bridge too far. Because Tucker Carlson has been telling them, if you hear someone call you racist, if you hear someone say white supremacy, if you hear someone say, you know, America was flawed at its founding, it means that they're the enemy and not to be trusted. And they're in fact only using that kind of language to shut me up because they were anti-speech, et cetera, you know?
You know what's interesting they say about that is when I said mainstreaming white supremacist views, in my mind,
Is this
that
full
was
volume?
me trying to hedge. But I see what you mean. It gets hard because what I was thinking is, instead of calling him a white supremacist, I'm talking about the fact that he can get talking points from some place like.
Thank you. Just not loud enough.
I was like, I know there's something I can do about this.
Well, this is the thing, and this is what happened with Trump. I've been
Be there or something like that, which I think.
the thing that I find to be
Oh my god.
What?
Accidentally rewinded.
White supremacist views, in my mind, that was.
they're in fact only using that kind of language to shut me up because they're anti-speech, et cetera, you know?
You know what's interesting they say about that is when I said mainstreaming white supremacist views, in my mind, that was me trying to hedge. But I see what you mean. It gets hard because what I was thinking is, instead of calling him a white supremacist, I'm talking about the fact that he can get talking points from someplace like V there or something like that, which I think is safer to call white supremacist or something like
V Dare?
I don't know.
Tacky magazine. So I say mainstreaming white supremacist views, I was, thinking more in terms of people who are kind of avowed, or I think less controversial to call white supremacist. He's saying things that they're saying without necessarily openly crediting them. But I do see what you mean. Like,
Okay, well,
anti-immigration stances. A lot of people who have
arguably racist.
but for some reason, there's this. We're not to curse on this, right?
Yeah, you can do what you want. The internet.
There's a classic Onion article headline where it goes, worry about how provable the case is against Tucker Carlson. And it kind of makes it tough because very few of the most people are going to be caught saying a slur.
Well, when you are contrite and you apologize. If you're never contrite and you're never apologize, yes, for people who don't know, because
What?
We are 11 minutes into this 30-minute video, and they still haven't explained why they think all these conservatives are white, or at least why Tucker Carlson is. He's a racist and white
she's
supremacist.
concerned about that, actually.
But you're not going to explain why you think that?
Well, either she thinks she already has in this video, or she still intends to.
Or maybe she thinks she's explained it before.
Well, I don't think she would just go this whole video and not say her argument about it one time.
Is this the whole live stream from start to finish?
I don't think so.
It's just a clip, right?
Yeah, she has like you can pay her a small amount of money or something for her subscription service.
Okay, but no, she needs to make it available for free people.
Oh, well, that's just not how the world works.
Wow.
But you don't pay per episode or anything like that. You just pay a subscription.
How much is it?
Probably like $5, $10. I don't know which one.
Is or who Chet Hanks is. Chet Hanks is Tom Hanks's patois, exclusively patois speaking son. It's not really clear why he speaks in patois. To be clear, this is Tom Hanks's son.
Yeah,
with Rita.
It's called patois.
Sorry?
Patois. My language is called patois. Just want to let you know. Okay. All right.
All right. Apparently, I'm mispronouncing it, so I won't be.
I want to make sure we get proper representation on here. Is all I'm trying to say.
Okay. But Chet Hanks.
Wait. As a Black American, maybe she's doing a W.E.B. Du Bois thing. Maybe she be patois. I'm gonna go.
No, I feel no. This is speaking over and erasing me.
Okay. I cannot hear the difference between what we're saying, so I'm not going to say it again. But the point of the story is that there's a kind of
is she
internet.
serious? What did he say?
No, I want to make sure we get proper representation. My language is called patois. Just want to let you know.
Patois. Yeah. Patois and patois. Can't hear a difference there. Was she joking? She better have been joking. I swear to God, she better have been joking.
I don't know for sure one way or another.
And why is she even, like, triggered by that?
Because she would like them to focus more and stay on topic.
Even though she was wrong.
Bad content is bad content.
Okay.
I don't think it was bad content to correct her when she was saying the name of a whole language incorrectly.
Oh. Yeah, she's just unnecessarily triggered, you know. She's triggered.
Fuck, that's just not what you're supposed to do on the record. Obviously.
Customer requested you leave the order at their door. They added the following instructions. Leave at my door.
All right.
Apparently I'm mispronouncing it, so I won't be.
I want to make sure we get proper representation on here. Is all I'm trying to say.
Okay. But Chet Hanks.
Wait. As a Black American, maybe she's doing a W.E.B. Du Bois thing. Maybe she be patois. I'm gonna go.
No, I feel no. This is speaking over and erasing me.
Okay. I cannot hear the difference between what we're saying, so I'm not going to say it again. But the point of the story is that there's a kind of internet show host called Z-Way, whose character is kind of an exaggerated kind of woke scold, sort of. But she's in on the joke, and she calls people out for their racism, but it's not usually really racism. It's just kind of like liberals that she's trying to embarrass, white liberals. And so she has Chet Hanks on the couch, and he seems like an easy dunk because he's been culturally appropriating for years now without really any explanation. It's been like this bizarro performance art / who knows, because we all know who his parents are, and that it's Tom Hanks, like the whitest man on the planet. And so she's like, do you feel like you have anything to apologize for? And he just sits back in his chair and is like, no. And no one can stump Z-Way. Like her talent is making everybody uncomfortable no matter what the circumstances. But he does not apologize, and they're kind of at an impasse, and it's kind of this fascinating little bit of television. But I think that's a great example, T. And my question is, like, what is the left version of that? Because I'm in this position now on the Hill, which I've been doing for a couple of weeks now, and I've been watching Tucker Carlson when in the parts of the article where he describes this process. Where he describes writing these scripts, hours before he goes on air, and the person who helps him with his draft, and how he analyzes the data to figure out what the people want to hear about and what they talk about, and how he's drifted over the years from talking to an abstract crowd to talking directly to the audience and saying you, and they want you to do this, and they think this about you, and this is what the goal is, and they're trying to hurt you, and using certain like tag words that, you know, the same way that we talk about the 1% or the elites, which that is effective and riles people up and makes them feel like they're part of a persecuted community that has an enormous amount of loyalty to both him and the program and this broader ideology. And so I think to myself, as I have taken words like white supremacy and out of my lingo, doubling down in the same way that, you know, Joe Biden last week says, talks about Super MAGA, and the next day they're selling Super MAGA shirts to raise money for candidates. I mean, what do you think of that, Q?
We spoke about this earlier, and I bit my tongue as much as I could so that I could save my thoughts for the show and not off air. But I think once we get into the trap, it is I don't know, like woke language by another metric, really. It's this idea that somebody else might take umbrage with what you say. Now, here's the difference. I'll give you an example here. And I think this is applicable to Tucker Carlson as well. So in Canada, we have a political party called the People's Party of Canada. And the People's Party of Canada was started by a politician by the name of Maxime Bernier. And Maxime Bernier was a longtime member in the cabinet of the previous Conservative Prime Minister, Stephen Harper. Now, while a cabinet minister, he made a really dumb blunder and left out a manila folder full of like confidential documents at his girlfriend's house, who was connected to like biker gangs and whatnot. After that embarrassment, he did go kind of low-key for quite a long period of time, and then re-emerged in conservative politics in Canada as a contender for the Conservative Party leader. He lost very narrowly to another candidate by the name of Andrew Scheer, and after taking that loss, he decided to go out and form his own political party. And suddenly his rhetoric, which had been sort of veering in this direction during the campaign, but then went all out after the leadership campaign was over, went towards like sloganeering and signaling towards alt-right types. He would like post memes about like taking the red pill and so on and so on. So he went off and created his own political party that he later called the People's Party of Canada, in which they espoused, you know, like populist far-right rhetoric, a lot of the same stuff that you would see from like MAGA types in the US. You're just writing that right-wing populist, anti-immigrant, anti-woke wave. Now, the issue with that was that a lot of people would hear statements that he made about immigrants when there were government owners and community groups, etc. You know, he called that racist. It was reverse racism, this, that, and the third. I mean, all the usual stuff that you would expect from those types. Now, the problem was people focused on whether his rhetoric, his anti-immigrant rhetoric, his anger at black communities receiving government funding and so forth, whether that was racist. And that's the discourse that we ended up locking ourselves into for 2 whole election cycles. And in the first election after the formation of the People's Party of Canada, they got, I think it was just over 3% of the vote. And in last year's election, Jesus Christ, last year's election, they got just over 6% of the vote. So they pretty much doubled up their vote count. And they've been getting more and more popular. Now, the problem is, if you go to the People's Party of Canada website and look at what their platform is, what policies they support, it's fucking nuts. It's ridiculous. It's like that we're going to lower inflation by cutting off immigration, that we're going to make housing more affordable by removing subsidized housing, and we're going to get rid of what we call the CMHC, which is a program for people that have high ratio mortgages. Like if you only put 5% down, you have to have insurance on your mortgage, so that if you run into financial trouble, you don't end up going into default immediately. Now, they had these cockamamie ideas all over their platform, and what I was saying to people was like, okay, like whether or not you think they're racist isn't really the point, because that's the mud they love to play in. Like they just want to drag you down into that like a bunch of pigs and just roll you around in it. That's where they're comfortable, because they can plausibly deny that they are. They're always talking about culture and what it is that they're against, and what kind of degeneracy and decadence of this empire that woke culture has brought to us. This resurgence of communism and Marxism and postmodernism and all these other incompatible fucking terms that are apparently responsible for the decline of the West, that can always be encapsulated by some drawing of a Wojak of a woman with blue and pink hair with a septum piercing, waving a trans flag. That's all it always boils down to them, is these cultural signifiers that they absolutely hate and disagree with. But then when you actually talk to them about what policies they support, they have no answer for that. They just love talking about the woke discourse. And the reason I know that's true is because in the 2019 leaders debate, I was asked to be on a panel, like a commentary panel, and on my way into the City News studio to comment on this debate, I encountered a whole lot of People's Party of Canada supporters, many of which had sent me some pretty flagrant
Alex Cargill is a hardcore People's Party of Canada person.
Yeah, I figured. This guy thinks that those guys are like total white nationalists or something.
But he also hilariously just said they could plausibly deny being racist.
Because, you know, since they don't go for any blatantly racist or policies or anything, that's how they get away with it. It's just subtly racist, you see.
Yeah, they're just secretly racist.
You have to see the racism between the lines, you see. It's not out in the open anymore.
It's funny because they are, in fact, secretly racist. But it just doesn't mean what you would think that it means.
I look like a fat ass in this shirt.
I know.
I mean, I am a fat ass, but not as much as this shirt makes me look like.
Nowhere near as much as the shirt makes you look like. But just imagine the before and after shots.
They have no answer for that. They just love talking about the woke discourse. And the reason I know that's true is because in the 2019 leaders debate, I was asked to be on a panel, like a commentary panel, and on my way into the City News studio to comment on this debate, I encountered a whole lot of People's Party of Canada supporters, many of which had sent me some pretty flagrantly racist emails. So, two middle fingers. Lo and behold, by that night, the party leader, Maxime Bernier, like somebody had
interviews very neatly steer things back to what's really important, the underlying economic policy. My strategy on the Hill, where the audience is much more conservative than most audience I normally speak to, is to not like rile against Tucker Carlson being bad or any given Fox News host for being bad or a conservative politician, but to point out, like, you want to talk about all of this nonsense, but look at what you're doing in your district. Look at how the people in Florida are suffering from a housing crisis. Look at how they are conservative and they voted for Trump, but they also voted for a $15 minimum wage that the Republican legislature has been trying to crush. And I think that is in some ways effective. At the same time, I can feel how easy it is for conversations to get derailed, because I'm like, every third sentence is someone wanting to throw in some jab about the cultural politics of mask mandates, or to say birthing person, a phrase which I have never personally heard someone in my own political community say, but which conservatives say every other sentence. In fact, ironically, I think that they're normalizing the idea of birthing person unwittingly.
Burning person?
Birthing person.
Birthing person. Oh.
You know, since liberals have decided that they don't remember the definition of a woman.
What do you mean they don't remember?
Oh, wait, if you ask a liberal or a Democrat these days to define a woman, they'll tell you it's not their place.
LOL.
Because it's such a central part of their politics. And in that context, and I talked about this a little bit on my call-in show recently, I historically have been like, well, let me just let that go. Let me not take the bait. Let me not push back on why they're treating the idea of birthing person like a punchline, because I know why they're saying it. I know what's going on. But I gotta be honest, I have started to feel personally compromised by doing so. I don't know that that's exactly the language that people are gonna land on, but the idea that I'm passively like letting jokes about some like pregnant trans man, even if there's only like 10 pregnant trans men in the country every year, but I'm passively letting that go because I have in my head the idea that I'm winning some broader ideological war, it sits uncomfortably with me. And I also wonder why it is that we don't have our own version of birthing person, given the absurdity of what's going on in the Republican Party right now, with people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and other of her ilk putting laser eyes on themselves in their...
You do have your own version of it. It's called racist. You call people racist and sexist and homophobic and transphobic
And bigot.
and Islamophobic.
Her profile picture, her own version of birthing person, given the absurdity of what's going on in the Republican Party right now, with people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and other of her ilk putting laser eyes on themselves in their profile pictures and, saying things that are well outside of the bounds of what average conservatives think is normal and appropriate. I want to play a clip as an example. This is a recent exchange that I saw. I'm no lightweight with consuming right-wing media, but even this was like, holy crap, this is where we are.
Jesse, really simple. Do you think the key to remaining competitive with the Chinese military is more gender advisors?
Oh, there's no question, Tucker. I mean, China right now and Russia, they're both testing hypersonic missiles that can turn New York City to ash. Russia is actually developing and has developed satellites that can push our satellites out of orbit and completely cripple our military. Our military, though, they're focused on the important things. We want to focus on climate change, and we definitely have to make sure there are enough tampons in the restrooms at the Pentagon.
That's kind of what they're saying. I mean, I don't know. There's a psychological term for this, and it escapes my memory at the moment, but where there's a massive real threat that you can't deal with, so you scurry off and deal with imaginary threats to make yourself feel in control. That kind of feels like what we're watching.
Well, what we're watching is the destruction of the U.S. military, and what we're going to end up seeing, Tucker, is thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of Americans die. Those are the stakes of the game we're playing here. We don't need a military that's woman-friendly. We don't need a military that's gay-friendly, with all due respect to the Air Force. We need a military that's flat-out hostile. We need a military full of Type A men who want to sit on a throne of Chinese skulls. But we don't have that now. We can't even get women off of naval vessels. That should be step one, but most of them are already pregnant anyway.
You got to keep in mind. This is the same dude that said that the American end game for China should be sitting on a throne of Chinese skulls. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, and the whole thing is absurd. I mean, it's funny almost, except for that these people are like serious and influential, and that something like that happens.
Russia is actually developing and has developed satellites that can push our satellites out of orbit and completely cripple our military. Our military, though, they're focused on the important things. We want to focus on climate change, and we definitely have to make sure there are enough tampons in the restrooms at the Pentagon.
That's kind of what they're saying. I mean, I don't know. There's a psychological term for this, and it.
He's not done.
Well, so far he's arguing for something very true in a very unintelligent way.
Mm-hmm.
So
Escapes my memory at the moment, but where there's a massive real threat that you can't deal with, so you scurry off and deal with imaginary threats to make yourself feel in control. That kind of feels like what we're watching.
Well, what we're watching is the destruction of the U.S. military, and what we're going to end up seeing, Tucker, is thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of Americans die. Those are the stakes of the game we're playing here. We don't need a military that's woman-friendly. We don't need a military that's gay-friendly, with all due respect to the Air Force. We need a military that's flat-out hostile. We need a military full of Type A men who want to sit on a throne of Chinese skulls, of naval vessels. That should be step one, but most of them are already pregnant anyway.
Yeah, I hope ultimately.
Oh, fuck.
LOL.
Yeah.
That was great. The only problem I have with it is that he didn't make the arguments in a smarter way.
Yes.
I'm okay with being provocative like that.
Yes.
But you just come a little cleaner. That's all.
Yes.
But he's a soldier.
Mm-hmm. Not a politician.
No. It's not his job.
No.
It's like, bitch, that's not my job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the one who wants to sit on the throne of Chinese skull.
You got to keep in mind.
Tucker is ridiculous for just being like, uh-huh.
That's his job. That's his job.
Oh my God, Tucker. Yeah, I know. Trust me, the Democrats do worse on they do
Way
just
worse.
as bad, bare minimum, on...
They didn't slander anybody like the fucking Democrats do to us daily.
But I was that misinformation, bullshit ass video that or something, and he's all like, that just sounds like total common sense to me. Okay, he's doing the same exact thing that Tucker Carlson was doing with this way too not clean dude, okay? Only worse. Same thing.
Yeah, but like, if one of those is like a 99 out of 100, the other one is like a 2 out of 100.
No, I don't agree with those numbers, but that doesn't matter.
Okay. In terms of like how much, like in terms of like the consequences of it.
Oh, well, yeah, the consequences of it.
What else would I be talking about?
How much they were doing the thing.
No, the consequences.
What do you mean, what else would you be talking about? Like, you couldn't be talking about a million other fucking things.
Okay, well, I meant like, I should have said I was talking about how much it like mattered in general.
Yeah, one is trying to create 1984. One is trying to have a stronger military and being blatantly way too anti-women while doing so.
Yeah. Not even way too anti-women to the point of like doing something you would need to pass a law against.
No! Just, wow, bro. You're really willing to say that shit on national television? That's some bar drunk dude shit.
Yeah, I mean, he's just dumb for saying it that way, because if he said it in a cleaner way,
he would be really effective.
It would be more effective, probably.
No, you go ahead, bro. I spoke long enough. You go ahead.
Well, geez, there's so many great things I wanted to respond to, so I apologize if this is a garbled mess. I'll try to work through it as best I can. This clip makes one of the points I wanted to make for us. The obvious point that we need to kind of underscore is that Fox and a lot of the right-wing kind of media machine isn't uniquely influential. It's uniquely well-funded. And it's uniquely positioned to spew a bunch of bullshit at people from a very tall height.
Hey YouTube, thanks for watching. Just a reminder that this is a podcast. It's patreon.com/badfadepodcast for $5 a month, an extra episode every week. Additionally, please do consider liking this video, subscribing to this channel. It helps us out. It helps independent media beat the algorithm. We appreciate you.